There was once a village far, far away, nestled between green hills and tall trees. The people there lived simple lives, tending to their crops and telling stories around the fire at night. They believed in spirits, both good and bad, and they knew that when someone died, they had to perform certain rituals to help the soul find peace. One day, a white woman named Emma came to the village. She wasn't from there. She was from a faraway country where the people spoke differently and lived in tall buildings. Emma came to the village to help teach at the local school. She was kind, always smiling, and eager to learn about the ways of the people. But there was one person in the village who caught her eye the most. His name was Kalu, and he was tall, strong, and always full of life. He was an Igbo man, a member of the tribe that lived in the village. He worked hard in the fields, but he also loved to tell jokes and make people laugh. Emma and Kalu became friends, and as time went on, their friendship blossomed into something more. They fell in love. They would spend hours walking through the village, talking about the land, the stars, and life itself. Before long, their friendship turned into love. They fell in love so much that they decided to marry, despite the differences in their backgrounds. Emma and Kalu's marriage brought joy back into his life. There was a secret Kalu hid from Emma. He had once been married to a woman from the village named Patricia. Patricia had passed away shortly after they were wed, leaving Kalu heartbroken. The villagers still whispered about Patricia, saying she had died under mysterious circumstances, though no one ever spoke of it openly. One day, Kalu fell ill. It started with a small cough, but soon he became weaker and weaker. The villagers tried to help him with their medicines and prayers, but nothing seemed to work. Emma stayed by his side, doing everything she could to take care of him. She hoped and prayed for him to get better, but his condition worsened. One night, as the moon shone brightly over the village, Kalu passed away. Emma was heartbroken. She couldn't believe he was gone. The man she loved, the man who had made her laugh and filled her heart with joy, was no longer with her. The villagers mourned with her, but they also knew that there was something important that needed to be done. In Igbo tradition, when someone dies, certain rituals must be performed to help their spirit find peace. One of these rituals involved the wife of the deceased sleeping next to the body of her husband for a night. It was believed that this would help the spirit move on to the next world and stop it from wandering between the land of the living and the dead. When the village elders told Emma about the ritual, she was shocked. She loved Kalu, but the thought of lying next to his body terrified her. In her country, they didn't have such rituals, and she didn't know if she could do it. The villagers explained that if she didn't complete the ritual, Kalu's spirit might become restless and cause misfortune to the village. Emma was torn. She didn't want to disrespect the customs of the people who had welcomed her, but the idea of the ritual filled her with fear. After days of thinking, Emma decided she couldn't go through with it. She packed her bags and returned to her home country, hoping that leaving the village would bring her peace. But peace did not come. A few weeks after returning home, Emma began to have strange dreams. Every night, Kalu would appear in her dreams. At first, he just stood there looking at her with sad eyes. But as the nights went on, the dreams became more vivid. In one dream, Kalu spoke to her, his voice soft but filled with pain. "You didn't finish the ritual," he said. "I can't find peace." Emma woke up in a cold sweat, her heart racing. She didn't know what to make of the dream. Was it just her mind playing tricks on her, or was Kalu really trying to tell her something? The dreams continued, each one more intense than the last. In one dream, Kalu even reached out to her, asking her to return to the village and complete the ritual. The dreams began to affect Emma in her waking life. Strange things started happening around her. Objects in her house would move on their own, and sometimes she would feel a cold presence in the room, as if someone was watching her. She knew something wasn't right, and deep down, she understood that Kalu's spirit was restless because she had not completed the ritual. Emma knew what she had to do. She couldn't live like this anymore. Kalu needed peace, and she had to be the one to help him. She packed her bags once again and made the long journey back to the village. When she arrived, the villagers were surprised to see her. Some of them whispered that her return had brought bad luck, as the village had been suffering from strange misfortunes ever since Kalu's death. The crops had failed, animals had fallen sick, and some people had even started to become ill. The elders believed that Kalu's restless spirit was causing these problems because the ritual had not been completed. Emma went to the village elders and told them about the dreams she had been having. She explained that she had come back to finish the ritual and give Kalu the peace he needed. The elders agreed to help her, but they warned her that the ritual would be difficult and that she had to be strong. The night of the ritual arrived. The villagers gathered around Kalu's grave, lighting candles and chanting prayers. The air was thick with tension, and Emma's heart raced as she stood before the grave. The elders instructed her to lie down beside the grave, just as she would have done next to Kalu's body. As she lay down, she felt a strange energy in the air, almost as if the ground beneath her was alive. The villagers continued to chant, and the drumming grew louder. Emma closed her eyes, trying to stay calm, but the fear inside her grew stronger. Suddenly, she felt something cold brush against her cheek. She opened her eyes, and there, standing beside her, was Kalu's spirit. His face was a mix of sadness and anger, and his eyes glowed with a strange light. He reached out to her, and she could feel his presence more strongly than ever before. The villagers gasped, for they could sense the power of the spirit too. "You must finish what you started," Kalu's spirit said in a low, haunting voice. "I cannot find peace until you do." Emma trembled, but she knew she couldn't turn back now. The elders had told her that there was one final part of the ritual that only someone close to Kalu could know. It was a secret invocation, a set of words that would help guide his spirit to the next world. As the night wore on, Emma felt another strange presence in the room. At first, she thought it was her mind playing tricks on her, but then she saw it, a figure emerging from the shadows. It was a woman, her face twisted in anger and sorrow. Emma's heart raced as the woman stepped closer, her long white gown flowing behind her like mist. "Who are you?" Emma whispered, though she already knew the answer. "I am Patricia," the figure replied, her voice like a cold wind. "I was Kalu's first wife, the one he left for you." "You took him from me," Patricia said, her eyes burning with rage. "I died because of the grief he caused me. And now you think you can have peace with him while I am forgotten?" Emma shook her head, stepping back in fear and big shock. "I didn't take him from you. I didn't know he was once married. We loved each other, but that doesn't mean I wished you harm." Patricia's spirit loomed closer. "You cannot complete this ritual. I don't want Kalu's spirit to rest. His spirit belongs to me, and I will not let him go." Emma realized that this was not just a battle for Kalu's spirit, but for his love. Patricia's anger was fueled by the pain of losing him, and now her jealousy had trapped his spirit between worlds. Emma had to find a way to free him, but how could she convince Patricia to let go? Summoning all her courage, Emma spoke. "Patricia, I understand your pain. I know what it feels like to lose him, but holding on to this anger is only hurting both of you. Kalu cannot rest, and neither can you." Patricia's eyes flashed. "You think I care about peace? I don't want peace. I want his spirit to feel the agony I felt." Emma could feel the weight of the spirits in the room. The air had grown thick and a chill ran down her spine, but she knew what she had to do. "You loved him once," Emma said softly, "and he loved you. But love is not about keeping someone against their will. If you truly loved Kalu, let him go. Please let him find peace. It's what he would want, for both of us." For a moment, Patricia's expression softened. The anger in her eyes flickered, and Emma thought she saw a tear form, but then the spirit shook her head, her face twisting with fury once more. "I cannot let go," Patricia said, her voice rising. Just as the tension in the room reached its peak, Emma remembered something Kalu had once told her about the power of forgiveness in Igbo culture. She stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "You won't be forgotten, Patricia," she said. "Kalu spoke of you often, and the village remembers you. Your spirit will live on in the stories they tell, but you must let him go. Holding him here will only make him suffer." The spirit paused, as if considering Emma's words. Slowly, the room grew quiet, and Patricia's figure began to waver. She looked at Emma, her face softening for the first time. "Perhaps you are right," Patricia whispered. "I have held on to him for too long." With that, Patricia's form began to fade. The room filled with a warm light, and Emma felt a sense of peace wash over her. She looked down at Kalu's body and saw a small white feather lying beside him. It was a sign, a symbol of his release. Patricia's spirit had finally let go. One rainy afternoon, as Emma sat by her window watching the raindrops tap against the glass, there was a knock on the door. She wasn't expecting anyone. When she opened the door, she found a young woman standing there, soaking wet from the rain. The woman introduced herself as Adaeze, Kalu's cousin. "I've been looking for you for a long time," Adaeze said, her voice soft but steady. Emma was shocked. She hadn't heard from anyone in the village since she left. She invited Adaeze inside, offering her a towel and a cup of warm tea. As they sat by the fireplace, Adaeze explained why she had come. "After you left, the village returned to normal," Adaeze began. "The crops grew again and the people became healthy. But there's something you need to know." Emma listened intently, her heart pounding in her chest. "There's a legend in our village," Adaeze continued. "It's said that when someone like you, an outsider, completes such a sacred ritual, they become a part of our village forever, no matter where they go. The ancestors have blessed you, Emma. You're connected to our people now, in ways that go beyond what you can see." Emma was speechless. She had always felt a connection to the village, but she never imagined that the bond went so deep. Adaeze smiled and reached into her bag, pulling out a small, intricately woven bracelet. "This is for you," she said, handing it to Emma. "It's a symbol of our gratitude. It also means that wherever you go, you carry the strength of our ancestors with you." Emma took the bracelet, feeling its weight in her hands. It was simple, yet beautiful, and as she slipped it onto her wrist, she felt a warmth spread through her, as if the spirits of the village were wrapping her in their protection. After Adaeze left, Emma spent many nights thinking about her connection to the village. She realized that her experience with Kalu and the ritual wasn't just about love and loss. It had opened her eyes to something much larger, a sense of belonging that transcended time and space. She began to feel that the world was full of unseen forces, spirits, and connections that went beyond what people usually understood. She started meditating, sitting quietly each morning and thinking about the spirits of the ancestors, just like the villagers did. She found comfort in the idea that Kalu's spirit, along with the spirits of so many others, were watching over her and guiding her on her path. It was as though she had gained a new family, not just the people in the village, but the spirits that were part of that world. As the months passed, Emma's life continued to grow in new and exciting ways. She began traveling to different countries, learning about their cultures and traditions, always curious about the spiritual practices of different people. Wherever she went, she wore the bracelet Adaeze had given her, and it always reminded her of her deep connection to the village. One evening, many years later, Emma had a dream. In the dream, she found herself standing in the village once again, the same village where she had once lived with Kalu. The trees swayed gently in the breeze, and the air was warm and sweet. As she walked through the village, she saw the familiar faces of the villagers, smiling at her as she passed. But something was different. At the far end of the village, near the edge of the forest, stood Kalu. He looked just as she remembered him, tall, strong, and full of life. His eyes sparkled with joy as he waved to her. Emma walked toward him, her heart filled with a sense of peace and happiness. When she reached him, he took her hand, and for the first time in so many years they stood together again. "You've done well," Kalu said softly. "I'm proud of you." Emma smiled, feeling tears well up in her eyes. She had missed him so much, but in that moment, she understood that he had always been with her in spirit. "This is goodbye," Kalu said, his voice gentle but firm. "It's time for you to let go completely, to move forward with your life. You've honored me, and now I can truly rest." Emma nodded, understanding what he meant. It was time to let go, to release the last pieces of grief and hold on to the love and the lessons they had shared. She embraced him one last time, feeling the warmth of his spirit, and then watched as he faded into the mist, disappearing into the forest. When Emma woke up the next morning, she felt a lightness in her heart. The dream had given her the closure she needed. She would always carry the memory of Kalu with her, but now she was ready to live fully in the present, free from the sadness that had followed her for so long.